So this is actual versus simulated, okay, simulation. So simulation. Zheng Yuxuan, what is simulation? What is simulation? Check your phone. What is simulation? Have you found it? Simulation. Shuinji, simulation. Okay. So these two authors, they have a theory, right? And they want to know whether their theory is correct or not. So they plug in all the numbers and compare their projection. So simulate it using the RBC model, right? And this is the actual. So it's kind of close, but you look at consumption, right? The gap is big, okay? And here, investment, that is fine. Inventory, that is fine too. Total hours work, okay. But you know, some of the simulation doesn't look quite well, okay? Okay, and then you get real GDP, okay, works quite well, right? GDP, consumption, investment, inventory. So for this part, it works quite well, but for productivity, it doesn't work, okay? So, he said, are the productivity shocks the only source of recession, okay? So here, some people critics means some people criticize, okay? Criticize the RBC theory suggests that except for the oil price shock of 1973, 79, 90, there are no productivity shocks that one can easily identify that cause recession. As I told you, right? If you believe in classical school, the market should work well, right? There should be no whatever shocks. And the economy, why it's gonna go up or down, right? So this is the problem. If you want to look at shocks, only 73, 79, these times, okay, you see shocks. But for other times, there's no shocks. Or how you gonna explain? You know, there is recession and there is, you know, good economy, right? And so, but they have replied. One RBC response is that it doesn't have to be a big shock. Instead, the accumulation of many small shocks can cause a business cycle. Okay, so that's the idea. Okay, even though you don't have a lot of big shocks, okay, it's that's fine, but you have some small shocks, and as time goes by, it may become a big one. Okay, so anyway, that's the explanation. So he said this is the simulated level of aggregate output, okay, and this is the simulated productivity shock. So you have so many small shocks, and then you get to the big one. And does the solar residual measure technology shock? So as I say, right, Solos model, when it explains the economic growth, there are three factors. One is labor, the other one capital, and then that's the technical one. And because it used very specific production function, and you know, one question is the economy really runs like this, right? And so, anyway, it's not that easy to see what's going on. And then the problem said, you know, this residual cannot be measured directly, okay? And it said, the solar residual is strongly procyclical in the US data, and say this accords with RBC theory, okay? Because when it goes up, right, technology must be doing something. When it goes down, that's the other way around. But then, how it's going to explain that this is absolutely because of technology, okay? So then if you match the explanation with what's going on in terms of the economy, sometimes it does not work quite well, okay? So anyway, because we haven't talked about all these in great details, but let me show you something that I want to show you. Okay, so first, major productivity can vary even if actual technology doesn't change. Okay, what does that mean? As I say, if you're on a major GDP, right, there is a lot of discrepancy. Okay, there could be error, right, and so what you measure is not really what is going on there. So that's one of the problem. Okay, so because we don't have the very comprehensive way to get what the data really looks like. Okay, and say more intense use of inputs leads to higher output. Okay, and so there is a utilization rate of capital and the utilization rate of labor. Okay, and when you talk about labor, that's another problem here. Okay, labor. So the example I want to give you is what happened during COVID-19. Okay. So supposedly you want to measure employment rate, and so what's going on in terms of unemployment, okay? But you know that during COVID-19, a lot of people work from home, right? They stay home, just like you, right? Remember 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we don't have class here. You stay at home, right? So we have class using what? Internet, okay? And so if that is the case, can you really measure productivity? Okay, so I think it's quite easy, right? When we have session on the internet, a lot of times I have to ask people, are you there, right? Are you really focusing on, the instructor is talking about, or you sleep away, right? Okay, so that's one of the problem. And the other problem is that, because people are just so afraid of catching COVID-19, okay? And so they don't want to work anymore. So even when the lockdown, okay, when the city is open and everyone can go out, and what happened? A lot of people still say, I don't want to work, because life is short, right? And if you got COVID-19, you're going to die very quickly, so why bother? And if I have some savings, okay, why should I take the risk? I just don't want to work. So unemployment rate at that point, okay, it is quite high. And the other one is that labor supply is going down. Okay, labor supply is going down. What happened? Because a lot of people just don't want to work. Okay, so there's some other issues here. And it said because of that, they have to rewrite the production function. I mean, this is complicated, and I don't want to get into that. So anyway, so it means that there's some fundamental issues about the production function as well. And so why bother to talk about all these, okay? So basically, there is going to further differences from the theory with what is going on in the actual output. So again, does the solar residual measure technology shocks? Okay, the question is not quite that way. Okay, utilization, okay, is procyclical, because when the economy is good, okay, people are going to work more, and of course you're going to use more capital. And so in this case, okay, you're going to mismeasure some of the solar residual, because it's going to be higher when the economy is good, and lower when the economy is bad. So in this case, it really doesn't make much sense. So the conclusion is changes in the major sort of residual do not necessarily reflect changes in technology. Okay, so this is one of the problem there. Okay, so then some also criticize that RBC theory suggests that shocks other than productivity shocks such as wars, military buildups have caused business cycle. As I told you, right? War has a lot of impact on business cycle. But RBC doesn't say anything about that. The point is, no theories will be perfect, but RBC, it does have some contribution, and that is why we need to know a little bit about it. Okay, fiscal policy. Fiscal policy, of course, will affect the economy and then will affect people's behavior and also, production and employment, all these things. So the current or future taxes needed to pay for the government expenditure effectively reduce people's wealth, causing an income effect on labor supply, right? That's what I said. So if tax, that's one of the reasons Republicans, they oftentimes emphasize cut tax, okay? Cut tax, what happened? You're going to work more, and you're going to be more productive, okay? And supposedly GDP will go up, okay? And also unemployment rate, okay? Unemployment rate will go down. Okay, so that's how it works. And that's why it can affect, productivity. And this increased labor supply will lead to a fall in real wage and a rise in unemployment. Okay, and then the rise in employment increases output, so the FE, that's full employment, aggregate supply curve will shift to the right. Okay, and this temporary rise in government purchases shifts the IS curve up. Okay, I usually want to say shift to the left. Shift to the right rather than shift up. Okay, so basically we have talked about it before. So this is the way fiscal policy is supposed to work. Okay, so here a temporary increase in government purchases. Okay, or the same thing, cut taxes, and then the labor supply shift to the left. Labor supply shift to the right. If labor supply shift to the right, and because this is government expenditure increase, right? Government expenditure increase, so IS curve shift to the right. And this is the new intersection here, okay? New intersection here. And because we assume this government increase in purchases will increase the productivity and increase the full employment production level. And so you get here, increase in interest rate, increase in GDP, okay? And so it says that the effects of a temporary increase in government expenditure, as I say, this is an expansionary fiscal policy. So IS curve will shift to the right, okay? IS curve will shift to the right. And then he said prices must rise to shift LM curve up. Okay, why? Because government increase in expenditure, aggregate demand curve will shift to the right, okay? Here you have to look at another model, right? So here is Y, here is P, and then this is aggregate demand, and this is aggregate supply, okay? And because government increase in expenditure, right? So here you have this one, increase in aggregate demand, so Y goes up, but then price also goes up. Okay, so price goes up, How will that impact ISLM model? Okay, so here is IS, here is LM. Here is price goes up, right? Price goes up. There's no price here, right? There's no price here. How are you going to impact anything here? So, to relate an increase in price level to ISLM model, you need to have some connection here. So we are talking about money balance. So this is money supply, right? This is money supply, and this is real money supply. Okay, real money supply. And if price level goes up, it means the real money supply goes down. So LM curve shift to the left. LM curve shift to the left because price level goes up. So it sounds like the same thing as money supply going down. Okay, money supply going down. So that's the way it works. Okay. So we get to this part. Okay, so when IS goes up, IF curve shift to the right. Okay, then LM curve will shift to the left. Okay. So then you get the final result like this. Okay, you get a final result like this. So increase in government expenditure shifts IS curve to the right. And then because of that, you look at aggregate demand, aggregate supply model, the price level will go up. The price level will go up, and then LM curve shift to the left. And because we say increase in government expenditure will increase productivity, and so here you have a higher full employment production level. So this is the way it is. Okay. So then, should fiscal policy be used to dampen the cycle? Okay. This is a difficult question. Basically, when the economy is good, everyone expects it continue to go up. And if you want it to go down, that will get people in big trouble because production going to go down and unemployment going to go up. But if you really want to do that, there are two options. So you want to get aggregate demand going down. Okay? If you want aggregate demand going down, there are two approaches. Okay? One is government expenditure goes down. The other one is tax goes up. Okay, so for these two approaches, which one is better? Okay, Yang Junxiang. If you want to get economy going down, right, you have two approaches. One is government expenditure going down or tax goes up. Of course, you can do both of them, right? But suppose you want to choose one. Which one is better? Okay, exactly. Why? Because if you have tax goes up, here you see that tax goes down, people are going to work more, right? If you increase tax, what happened? People will work less, right? So if you just don't buy that much, that will be good. And suppose you want to increase tax, that is bad. Because on the one hand, of course, people, don't have that much money, right? So they don't buy as many. But then here, you have extra incentive to work less. So this will cause supply to go down. And here, you only have demand go down, right? Here, you only have demand go down because the government buy less. But here, people become poorer. Okay, they don't have as much money, but then they don't want to work as much. And so there is a supply shock here. Okay, good. Let's move on. Okay. So classical economists oppose attempts to dampen the cycle because price wages adjust quickly to restore equilibrium. That's what we have always talked about, right? If you believe in free market, if you are a classical economist, you don't need to do anything. Basically, that's the way it is. Okay. And then he said, fiscal policy increases output by making workers worse off, since they may face higher taxes. This is because if you have increase in income, right, you may increase your tax rate, okay, because your income goes up. You may move to a higher tax bracket, and so you have to pay a higher tax rate. But this is just conjecture, okay. So anyway, this is the impact of fiscal policy. And then they talk about lags in enacting the correct policy. Okay, I'm going to tell you about this again. So there are four types of lag. Four types of lag. Okay, the first one, recognition lag. Okay, as I said, if you want to know whether the economy is in recession, you have to wait for 2 quarters, okay, for you to know that it is recession. The GDP has gone down 2 quarters consecutively, okay? So that will be 6 months. And after you realize that, there's something wrong, then you have to do something, right? And it is called, legislative lag. I will call it decision lag. Because it doesn't have to be, by legislature, okay? So legislature. 洪子怡, what is this legislature? Oh, sorry, legislative. So I would say the first one is recognition lag. Okay? Not everything has to go through legislature. Okay, that's 立法院. Okay? And so I would call it decision lag. Decision lag. And then implementation lag. And then impact lag. Okay, when you realize what is going on there and you have to do something, right? So this is the decision lag. You have fiscal policy, you have monetary policy, which policy you want to use, right? And then after you decide which policy you want to use, if it is fiscal policy, then you have to go through legislature, okay? If it is monetary policy, you go through the central bank. Okay, so either it is the executive end or the central bank, they decide they want to do something, and then they have to do it, right? And here, if it is fiscal policy, it takes a long time, right? Because the government has to propose something and send it to the legislature and then pass it. But then for monetary policy, it's much easier because the central bank can convene at any time. And also they have regular meetings. But after, say, you decide what kind of policy you want to do and also go through all the processes, then what is the impact? When will you see the impact? That's another problem. Suppose it's monetary policy, okay? Usually it's like 2 months. Usually it's like 2 months or 3 months to see the impact. Because, let us say you borrow money to buy a house, and now the government decreased the interest, the central bank decreased the interest rate. But your mortgage payment is a contract. You cannot change it right away. You have to wait for some time. In Taiwan, okay, if the central bank lowered down the interest rate, you have to wait for 2 months to get impact. Okay, at that time, then the interest rate will go down because of the contract lag. But for fiscal policy, it will take a long time. So for example, the one thing that I often mention is HSR, right? High-speed rail. How long does it take to get high-speed rail done? It's a long time, right? I believe that's more than 10 years, okay? And now, I think Kaohsiung want to get another MRT, right? It is the called yellow line, okay? MRT yellow line. We have talked about it for a long time. Can you see it now? No, right? So it takes much longer time. So because of that, classical economists believe that you better not do anything. Because when you do something, you haven't really figured out what's going on in terms of the economy, and what you have done could be interference, okay? Could interfere the economy, and that will not be good, okay? So he said, choosing the right policy today depends on where you think the economy will be in the future, right? And so that's the problem. This creates problems because focus of the future state of the economy are imperfect, okay? So it is better that you do nothing about it, okay? And then let's talk about the unemployment issue here. So classical model, there is no unemployment because the market supposedly should work well. And so everyone should get whatever they want if they are willing to offer their labor for something. But of course, in theory, that is not, in reality, that's not the case, okay? Always there are some unemployment, okay? Frictional or structural, okay? And so how are you going to deal with it? So workers and jobs have different requirements, so there's a mismatch, okay? Whatever you want to work, okay, there may not be a job to match what your ability, okay? And then it takes time to match workers to jobs. So there will always be some unemployment. And unemployment rises in recession, that's for sure, okay? Because the economy is not good, and also because productivity shocks, okay? So a shock that increases mismatching, and that will raises frictional employment, and may also cause structural employment. So this is the issue on unemployment, okay, in terms of business cycle. And say, these two guys, Davis and A-YDY-NKUST, show that there is a tremendous amount of churning of jobs, both within and across the industry. What does that mean? That means some people are changing jobs, okay? Okay, so there's rates of job creation and job destruction. So some sectors, okay, for example, right now, right? What is the most prosperous sector now? Lin Weixun. What would be the most prosperous sector now? In the world, in Taiwan, everywhere. The sector, prosperous means good, okay? What would be the most, the sector that offers most jobs? Two words. Two letters, actually. No idea. AI. Okay, AI offers a lot of opportunities. What about the opposite? Traditional, right? Car company. Next week, right? We talk about car company. It's not good, right? And if you look at China now, I think the retail sale is not good either. Okay, the retail. But for Taiwan, it's about right. Not too good, not too bad. But in terms of AI, still, it is. There's still a lot of things going on. Okay. Okay, let's move on. So here is that the worker match theory cannot explain all unemployment. The same thing, right? So, job market actually are quite complicated, right? So, for example, for me, right? When I was in the US in 1993, okay, from 1993 to 1999. When I got there as about 1994, 1995, okay, actually the economy is quite good, and a lot of people moved to the internet sector, okay. And for me, my goal is to get my PhD. But for most Americans, their goal is to get money, right? If you have money, that's fine. And so I think it is in 1997, some of my colleagues, the fellow students, they, just quit. In my opinion, that it sounds like a failure, right? Because if you get to study for a PhD, the goal is to get a PhD, and they don't have it, right? But they quit. Okay, because of what? At that time, if they go to the Wall Street, okay, they just sign up, okay? They haven't started working, just sign up. They got $15,000. What would you do? You sign up, right? So anyway, it's for jobs is a complicated story, okay? And for example, let us say a lot of people want to study, say, labor issues or industrial organizations, but when you graduated, what you interested may not be the ones that with that much offer. So that's totally different, right? Okay, because when you study, you suppose that this will be good and there will be a lot of job opportunities. But when you finish your degree, is this still the case? It's not, okay? So anyway, a lot of mismatch there. So here is that, can the government use fiscal policy to reduce unemployment? I don't think so, okay? It is a difficult part. And he says, so a better approach is to eliminate barriers to labor market adjustment. So why? What's that? Increase competition, increase opportunity by investment, okay, rather than the other approaches. And sometimes the government also mess around with the minimum wage rate, okay? If you have minimum wage rate, it's gonna affect the willingness of the employers to get workers, and that will not be good. Okay, and it says that there's some jobless recovery, just like COVID-19, as I told you, right? A lot of people, they are discouraged, and they are just so afraid of any disease and don't want to take any risk. And so even though the economy is getting better, but as a matter of fact, the employers are still looking vigorously for workers. So that's part of the problem. Okay, so this is payroll employment relative to business cycle trough. So basically, this is the bottom part of the financial tsunami. But then, the other part is like this. So supposedly, a lot of things are different. Okay, so as I say, and also the books talk about it, not every business cycle is the same. Okay. So anyway, I think that's about it. So here he said, it appears that productivity growth has been strong in the jobless recovery. So GDP has grown even as employment declined. Okay, that's the same. That is also what happened when the COVID-19 is dying down. Okay, but of course, this explanation cannot explain everything. Okay, because every business cycle is different. Okay, for monetary policy, I kind of hesitate to talk about it because we really haven't talked about money yet. Okay, but anyway, here we talk about two issues: monetary non-neutrality. Okay, So what does money neutrality mean? Okay, so neutrality of money. If money is neutral, okay, if money is neutral, money supply only affects inflation, okay? If money is neutral, money only affects inflation. But that is for the long run. That is for the long run. In the short run, money can increase, can affect, okay, GDP, consumption, investment, okay? If in the short term, money supply can affect consumption and investment, then of course it's going to affect GDP and unemployment. Okay. So is money really neutral? I don't think so. Okay, so probably every economist agree that money is not neutral in the short run, at least. Okay. What about in the long run? In the long run, I would say it still has some impacts, but not quite as much. Because if you talk about in the long run, it will have more impact on the price level. Okay? Okay, so here, it said if money is neutral, then what does the data show that? Money is leading, okay, procyclical variable, as I say, right? Money is a leading factor, okay? So increases in money supply are often followed by increases in output, okay? And reduction in money supply are often followed by recession. That's also one of the reasons I say, one of the causes of business cycle is money supply, right? Money supply. And he also said, if money is neutral, why does data show that money is a leading and procyclical? So the answer said, okay, some of them don't agree with that, so he said reverse causation. So what? Just because changes in money growth precede, that's before, okay, changes in output does not mean that the money changes cause the output changes. He said it's the other way around, okay? So reverse causation means that money growth is higher because people expect higher output in the future. And so because of that, the economy is getting better. Okay, so it's not because of money supply increase. It is that you expect increase in money so that you do more. Okay? But I don't think this is really the case. Okay? So anyway, a lot of people still believe it is money supply that increase production. Okay, money supply increase production. Okay, so why would higher future output cause people to increase money demand? Said firms anticipating higher sales would need more money to for transactions to pay for materials and workers. And then the Fed will respond to higher demand for money by increasing money supply, and otherwise the price level will decline. I think this part is a little bit difficult. So, and there's not much time left. So, I think we'll get to this part next week, okay? And then get to chapter 12, okay? 这个部分有一点点难，然后他讲的跟一般所预期的不太一样。好，所以 anyway， 我们一般都认为货币供给增加，经济就会变好。OK， 货币供给增加，经济就会变好。但是呢，他这里讲的是另外一个不同的解释啊，所以我如果继续讲的话你们应该听了会很头痛。所以 anyway， 我们下礼拜从这个地方开始，然后我来解释一下所以我再听一次最重要的，货币供给增加其实会让经济变好，这是一般的看法。OK， 也就是说考试人家问你那个
什么样情况经济会变好？当然是货币供给增加嘛，对不对？但是它是解释成另外一个，稍微麻烦一点。OK， 我们下礼拜见，谢谢。